Yes, reminder. So I've moved, and so all of my reference times are going to be now in Central Time. So this actually works out better for, I've had 4 or 5 people reach out and say that the it works out a little better for them anyway. So that is what we're going to do.
Question. If I haven't been here, but once before. Name's Kimball, by the way. 3D printing. You guys using anybody using resin printers? And what kind of luck have you had?
Yeah, I have. And Steve, have you messed around with resin printing yet?
I have not yet.
So there was a thread on the forums. So I've done really resin printing. The niche that it fills is for high detail parts, you know, for the most part. So I'll print, you know, anything small, high detail on my resin printers. Now that said, I've actually printed 4 or 5 sections of a 72nd scale Type 21, and it works really, really good for that. But it's really not kind of designed for it. I haven't yet printed a full boat with one, but I'm sure it would be possible.
Small parts. I've done my gas torpedo nose cones and tail cones with resin print. Little symbols and parts, small parts, like Bob said, detail parts. I wouldn't do it with a hull. You'd have to find the size unless it's a really small boat.
Yeah, well, I mean, like the Anycubic, the bigger Anycubic that I have, I don't remember what it's called. It's not the Chiron, it's the other one. It's got a pretty sizable build platform. It's like 8 by 4 by 6 or something, or 8 by 4 by 6, I think is the build volume. So you can, if you split the hull into like top and bottom, you can actually print pretty sizable, you know, boats with it. So
Just bought that Anycubic, and I think it's got a 9-inch depth, and it's got a big, pretty darn big tray on it. I was thinking it'd be good for at least a 6-inch diameter hull.
all I can say is try it. I would love to see what kind of results you get, because obviously you'd be doing away with all of the post-processing, you know, that we battle with the striations, and also the inherent weakness with the striations. You know, when those hulls split, they always split along the print lines. So
My hulls don't split.
I should say, if they split on So I wanted to give everyone a quick update. So I got my stuff on Tuesday for the new shop. The moving truck showed up. There wasn't a tremendous amount of damage, although I have not yet unpacked all of my boats. I do have some pictures that I can try and share. In case you're interested. So this is what I started with on Wednesday morning. So Jason came up from Florida to hang out and help me get unpacked and get our feet under us in terms of you know, catching up on customer orders and that kind of thing once we get the shop put together. Which way do I go here? This is the new inventory storage room that we're set up with. This is the front kind of entryway. Oh, and there we go. I'm starting to put stuff in there. In the front, I got the 3D printing center. I still have 2 printers that didn't get put on there, but that's all in the front clean area of the shop. My kitchen, so to speak. This is how, I think this is how we left it on Friday afternoon. So we're getting there. It's all air conditioned with like nice LED lights, so I'm pretty stoked. There's Jason walking underneath our cow. But yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along really good. I'm kind of hoping, you know, within the next, probably by midweek, I'll have at least the inventory put away and I can start shipping out some of the back ordered stuff that accumulated over the course of the last like month or so.
Bob, I have to tell you, thank you for stopping me from trying to make the sea view float high in the water. Like it would have never happened. It's like a cruise ship, you know. I don't know how they float, but couldn't do it with the sea view.
No. So Frank and I had a little bit of an email conversation going back and forth about you know, science fiction or fantasy boats and realistic versus you know, scale water lines. So if anybody remembers like the Sea View in the movie and the TV series, it basically floated with like the windows above the water, which is like over halfway, you know, half of the boat surface, which is
2/3 of the boat floating.
Yeah, not super feasible from a you know, a practical perspective, but you know, we basically came to the determination if we're going to make it, you know, functional in a realistic manner, we better float it in a realistic manner. So I think you probably decided the water line was right at the you know, where the deck intersects the hull. So you still got about 85 or 90% of the boat under the water, which is kind of the way it should be. Fortunately, you can see Nautilus behind me. When Goff designed that, he realized, you know, the vast majority of the boat needs to stay under the water. So 90% of the Nautilus stays under the water when it's fully surfaced.
I'm setting up my I have a detached garage that's 13 feet by 31 feet that I built. And I used to do woodworking in there, but now it's going to be dedicated just to submarines. So I remade the workbench only 2 feet high because I found when you're working on the sub, you have to stand on something to look down into it when it's upside down. So, and then testing it, you know, between trying to get it outside and this and that and the weather and everything, I did a little something that I don't know if anybody else did, but I'm going to try and show you without being too jerky with the camera.
Okay. So, well, we don't see anything on your camera, so.
Oh, I wonder how come. Oh, here we go. How's that?
This is still your best side.
Much darker.
Take your thumb away from the camera lens.
Yes. Get
Still,
anything yet?
Still pretty dark.
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm seeing a black screen.
Yep.
Something ain't right.
The bottom of your computer screen, there might be a start video button.
Yeah. Start video.
Nope.
All right. I'll work on this and I'll get back to you.
All right, sounds good. Hey, I want to show this off, and I'm glad that Matt decided to grace us with his presence.
Sorry, I know it's been about 4 months. I've been busy. My bad.
But kind of exciting. I like this deal. He premiered this at a recent boat show, and I've got this in my store right now. So this is obviously my website, but you guys will recognize it. Do you want to do the grand intro there, Matt?
Yeah, so as you can see, it's good old Stingray. How many months has it been? 18 months of doing it. So I released it at Blackpool on Saturday last weekend. She's 1/35th scale. even though the figures kind of come out at a different scale when we started measuring it all up, but that was off the actual scale of the boat. But yeah, give me 2 seconds. Let me finish this tab and I'll show you the actual boat, which is sitting in the other room. Because it's too cold to be in the workshop tonight. But yeah.
For the next one, you're gonna have to try and paint it with something other than a crayon.
Yeah, fair one. It was 3:30.
I'm just busting your chops a bit. I'll bet you finished up like at 3 a.m. the day before the show, right?
3:30 and chucked it back in the van at what 3:35 and then started driving 7 hours. Yeah, I had no sleep for 2 days to get that out there.
Yeah, I think it'll build into a very cool boat. What I love about it, I've never seen the Jerry Anderson Stingray series. I'll have to check it out. But this just reminds me of like a 60s era Cadillac or something. The big fins and big curved lines for the fenders. You can tell this was envisioned in the 1960s.
Yeah, and what was it? The cone at the rear, the rate master, was originally a bath tap.
Oh,
so they took
here.
Yeah, so they took it off a bath tap, and that's how they got it on the show. But yeah, it's a beast. It's just under 3 foot long. The bottom and top will separate on the hull, and the cabin comes off as well. At the moment, this one that you can see here is set up for surface running because the guy who helped me do a lot of the designing, he's getting this one and he's going to make it into a surface runner. So the top and bottom are fiberglass together.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I must admit that's stage 2. It's going to be making the watertight cylinder or whatever what route ever we go round to get it to work. I've got some ideas, but no. I'm proud of it. I have to admit, I'm glad it's finished.
Very cool. Yeah, like I said, I've already sold one. I got the money in this morning, so.
I intend to get gel coating tomorrow, but I don't know how well you guys can see the screen. But there she is. As you can see, the dive planes are ready to be used. Oh, 2 seconds, guys. Bear with me just a sec. I'm just going to mute myself and I'll speak to you in a sec.
Yep, that's fine. Business first.
Air duct cleaning service. Are you happy with your internet provider?
Hey, here's a question for everyone because I honestly don't know the answer to this. So I got a whole bunch of molds from that gentleman out of Germany, and typically, for obvious reasons, he molded it in left and right. All right, because it's easier for layups typically. I'm trying to figure out if I wanted or if I need to laminate these two together. How do you do that? The only thing I can think of is you take the lefts and rights and you cut them and then you laminate, the two together. But I've seen boats come to me in one piece, and I am baffled as to how it's done.
Maybe paste the edges in the mold.
You can do what? Sorry.
Trim the parts close in the mold, and then make up like a paste and micro balloons and such. Paint the edges up, bolt the mold together, let it cure, pop it out, one piece.
I did
That's
that.
a guess.
What I find though, I did that with that big 30th scale 212. And I found, like, despite the fact that it was because I basically slush cast it, I rolled it back and forth and I got a big, pasty mess in the bottom. But even that, I shipped it out in one piece to the customer, and even then it's split wherever where it was just resin and not fiberglass. Now, admittedly, UPS probably hurled it from the back of their truck at 80 miles an hour or something. So it probably underwent some pretty significant trauma. But
may I offer a process?
Yes, you may.
What you do is you take the left and right and you bolt them together with straps. And then you make your longitudinal and radial cuts. Then you reinforce from the inside the split, top and bottom. Done.
So you're saying basically redo the mold so it's top and bottom?
No, I'm talking about the cast pieces, the finished laid up pieces.
Okay, wait, just start over again. Say that again.
All right, you've got your mold as is, and that means that you're going to produce a left and a right hand part out of
Yep.
GRP.
Yep.
Take those out of the tool, trim them up, put them together, but hold them together with external straps. I've pictured those a few times in articles. Just simple brass straps with a securing nut left and right. You put enough of those on and you register your parts perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
You then make your longitudinal and radial cuts. You now separate top from bottom. Now you put in your reinforcing tape into the splits top and bottom and you're done.
Okay. What I'm trying to do is make these, because I got like 10 boats from Lazar, and all of them are, you know, left and right. And
like you said, the slush cast. And that means that you basically have an unreinforced resin hull.
yeah. And then I guess what would be the best thing to do then after you slush cast, you get it out, you make your cuts, reinforce it with the tape, and then send them out.
Yeah.
That
Now,
way.
what we're talking about is roto casting, not centrifugal casting,
Yep.
roto casting, where the agent that moves the resin around is gravity.
Yep.
So, sorry, I came into this conversation a bit late. Are you trying to bond two sides together while you're molding?
Yep.
Right, there is another little trick you can do. So if you've made both parts left and right, okay, and you have, I assume that you've got an edge going around your fiberglass hull. Is that correct? Like we have on mine?
Correct.
Or
yeah.
is it two? Yeah. What you can do is drill lots of holes down the edge on both sides. So what you're doing is you're creating fiberglass rivets, right? And you go down the idea of doing the paste, and you put your paste along the edge. And as you bond the two together, the paste will go into the holes you've drilled out, which will cause a rivet. So when you release it and clean it up, you won't break it apart because it will be solid.
Mhm.
And it's something I've done when I was repairing vehicles a couple of years back. You drill lots of holes to create fiberglass rivets. And that will give you your strength.
So they'll mushroom out inboard. They'll
Exactly.
mushroom out like a rivet and then harden, holding it
Yeah.
together. Oh,
Yeah,
now
when
there's the
when it
flange and you get a
hardens.
mushroom.
So you have
That's
a
it.
molded in index flip already in this hulls?
Sorry, was someone asking me that?
Or was there a molded in index lip on these hulls?
No, so you've got what we got is, you know, left and right, and then
Are they flush, flat? They don't,
yeah,
they
there's
don't
no
interlock?
either they bolt together.
so no indexing lip.
It's a butt joint.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
Never mind.
Yeah. But
I'll play with that a little bit more, you know, just to let you guys, it's super interesting to me. So I made, you know, all these investments. I've had these things up on my website now for probably like 6 or 8 months. Not one person has asked about them. The only one I've sold is the 212. I've sold 2 of them out of all of those boats. And it's just a little bit of a commentary, because they're odd boats. There's like Cold War era Russian boats like Whiskey, India, Juliet, like super cool boats. And then I've got like Type 9, I've got 2 Type 21s. There's a Type 7, not one inquiry, not a whisper of somebody remotely interested in it. And, you know, I mean, I didn't pay a lot for them, but I paid enough that it's painful to have them sitting in the back of the shop, just taking up room.
Well, what does the common Joe want? What class?
Type 7, Virginia, Seawolf, Los Angeles.
Nautilus.
Thank
Ohio,
God.
Ohio.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the the common boats. But I guess, for the layman, people who aren't embedded in the submarine world, they want to see the ones that are common out, the movie submarines, right? Hunt for Red October and all of this stuff. So all of the historical ones are really the diehard submarine aficionados who have interest in those. And it's unfortunate because you take a look at some of those boats on the water, and God, they've got amazing profiles and really, really fascinating opportunity for making functional bits and bobs and all of that stuff. But that was my rant. If anybody's after like weird, cool, unique boats, once I get the site back up, take a look, because they're super cool. You're muted, Frank.
How's that?
All right, much better.
Now I got the camera, I hope.
Yep, I can see your thumb. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Fat too. Anyway, that's my new workbench. So 2 feet high. And right now the sea view is upside down on it because I'm still trimming. But then when I get it to a point where I flipped it over and everything, underneath the workbench is a 10-foot tank.
Yeah, there you go.
And then this picks it up.
That is slick.
Wow.
The thing weighs about 70 pounds. So when I try and pick it up, I can pick it up, but the trick is to do it without damaging it. So this
Or
picks it up,
you.
pops it in and lifts it out. And who cares what the weather's doing outside?
How on earth are you going to get that in the water in the lake?
Oh, I have a 9-foot ladder with a wheel on the end.
That's the way
Because
to do
it's
it.
hard. People pick it up by the fins when they help me up, or by the manta fin. So this way you just pick it up by the last 2 rungs, and the wheel, you just roll it into the water. If there's a bulkhead, you just slide it over the bulkhead and let it go down and float off the ladder.
So make sure that your wheels aren't so buoyant that it floats the ladder. As Mike Martin discovered, he made his fancy float, and his boat wouldn't come off the trolley because the wheels were floating the lift up underneath it.
Let's see the lifting mechanism again, please.
You like that? That's courtesy of Harbor Freight. And the straps go around the boat, and it balances and everything, and then into the water.
Perfect.
And right now there's a plastic, this is shrink wrap inside there, keeping it waterproof. But next year I'll fiberglass it, because this is it's just, I'd rather have fiberglass to give it the strength from the water pressure, because I want to fill it a little more. And it's 3/4 inch plywood, but it's still pushing on it. So
yeah,
You ought to talk to your local metal fabricator about doing a thin ply metal tank for you. I think you'd be surprised at how reasonable it is.
well, this cost me about $50 to make. I don't think the metal is going to be that reasonable.
No. Different level of reasonableness.
you could always just bolt some box steel, some box steel, probably like 2-inch steel, rod or girders just to the outside lips, and that would stop it from bowing.
Yeah, a piece of angled steel. That's all I was going to put.
Yeah, there you go.
But when I fiberglass it, I could make hats inside, with a little styrofoam, and that'll stiffen it a lot.
Sure.
So but it's floating just the deck. The bottom of the deck is a ½ inch above the water. So that's exactly, it looks good there and everything else. So I'm
That's
happy.
a ton. That's still a ton of freeboard. I'll bet you that's still 2/3 of the way out, or 1/3 out of the water.
Yeah.
Good for you. I mean, if you got that much buoyancy and if you got the ballast tank to support it, that's great.
Yeah. And she stays nice and straight up and down. So next is submerge it and see what happens then.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's plenty of room under the deck for foam. So I shouldn't have any problem with that. Yeah.
Unless you don't have enough ballast tank and it doesn't sink, in which case you got to ballast it lower.
Well, I got 4 feet of ballast tank, so that better be enough. But there's about 2 inches of, under the deck that I can put foam. So, and that's almost 5 feet.
Yep.
So hopefully next year, Grotten's, I don't know what's going on. They're talking about having that Memorial Day weekend. That's kind of sucks. That's what Joe's shooting for.
Well,
I'm having dinner with Joe next week. I'll ask him about that.
Yeah, because that's really a busy weekend, and it was nice at the end of the summer. The traffic wasn't so bad. Kids are back in school.
Well, Frank, to your point, why don't we survey everybody here right now?
Yeah.
What's the ideal month and week?
Just like it was,
right?
Hello?
Yeah, just what it was last week was great.
That was the first weekend of September,
I mean,
wasn't it?
last year it was the
September? No, this year. It
September,
was
yeah.
this year.
Yeah, the weekend after Labor Day was great.
It's too close to Subfest for me.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. But I guess
this would be, again, maybe this is a good opportunity. So like, this is really an opportunity to kind of take the pulse a little bit. Like, granted, we don't have a huge, cross section of opinions here, but we have the opportunity to, or I do anyway, to move Subfest around. But the only thing about Subfest, it's at a venue that is basically unavailable until that part of September, because it's a public venue that they shut down.
That's the same issue with Groton, because the base lost the enlisted men's lake. The Rock Lake disappeared and became a swamp. So all active duty members swim at the old officers lake, Dave, right? North Lake was the office. Back when Subbrigada ran during the 90s, the officers, being officers and gentlemen that they are, sacrificed the lake for a weekend in July. Now they don't do that. The MWR runs the lake, and they are only going to offer it either before June or after September. So that's why Joe wants it, because Joe is busy during September with his wife. So he doesn't really want September. And now you have the conflict. It's the same thing. The summer is really cut. So you're either going to run it in the early year, which is bad for people in the Northeast, because they like that summer to trim the boats out to make it pretty for Groton. And of course now Subfest, but that's what you're dealing with. The base, like Cahuta, is not going to give it up during the summer.
Well, if these circumstances drive our hand and we can only have a week separation between the two, I can deal with that. That's speaking for me. What about the rest of you guys?
Yeah, it doesn't bother me, because it's just I live on Long Island, and the traffic is going to be horrendous from anybody that comes from here, takes the ferry over and all that stuff. And coming right out of the winter in just before Memorial Day there's a lot of stuff going on. Joe has it maybe, I guess it's his wife's birthday or whatever it is, but Ray won't go either if it's in Memorial Day. He's not going to go either. So I mean, it's not too big.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of people that aren't going to go.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ray is busy with videography and school, during the month of June with
Can't lose him.
graduations.
Don't want to
Okay,
lose Ray.
and he's the driving force of Groton now, especially that I'm removed from it. Groton is now 1,600 miles away from me. It went from a 3-hour trip on a ferry ride to 1,600 miles. So I'm 6 of one, half a dozen the other. Cahuta is going to be my primary game.
You know, it's interesting because we talked about this before. You know, our hobby is so small, and what Subfest really illustrated, people are so you know, strangled of good events that they'll drive from Las Vegas, you know, to Georgia.
I have a suggestion.
Uh-huh.
If you want a venue that'll complement Cahuta Subfest,
Mhm.
but is military driven, one of us should approach Kings Bay, Georgia Naval Base and see if they'll let us. I know years ago they wanted to compete and steal the show from Groton, the command structure there, because when we had the big thing, remember Dave, when the admirals came out and all that, Kings Bay, wasn't there a
Yeah.
run at Kings Bay?
Yeah, but that's transitory and it's as variable as a change of command.
Right. Well,
That's
that's the same with
personality
Groton.
driven.
Yeah. Well, that's
And I
Groton
don't
too.
count on that.
Groton will be, I mean, it's iffy now, especially because Bob was on his way until the command said no outside, no foreign, right? No.
Yeah. And that was a personal thing. That guy had a bug up his ass about foreign nationals, and that took our guy and Johan in with 1 day's notice out of the mix.
And all the
Thank you very
all the
much. And that was a
committees were
personal deal.
Yeah,
I totally agree with that because he was notified late in the game and he got all huffy about it.
yeah. So you know, the challenge. Okay, let's say for example, like, you know, late or say September in general is like the optimal month. But you know, if we kind of grow this hobby, you know, a bit, that means we're going to have an event East Coast and West Coast at the very least. Ideally, East Coast, West Coast, and Central. But that means we're trying to fit, you know, 3 events or 2 events into a very, very compressed, you know, timeline, and we're splitting, you know, sort of a small amount of people amongst more events. So the attendance of each one of those is going to be reduced too.
Is there any way of separating Cahuta and Groton by a week or so?
Carmel, Indiana.
Yeah, that's a subcommittee event, right?
Yeah, it's a submarine event open to everybody, even you, Dave.
So
Hey,
speaking as someone who has some insight into the subcommittee world, it is not a subcommittee event. It was taken over by the local group, and they will do what they want, when they want, and how they want, and they don't ask, require, or want any support from the subcommittee other than helping to finance it.
Sometimes we did a lot by the raffle prizes. There was a bit of something with the insurance and the tent, basically, but I think it was pretty well covered by whatever we drummed up from the raffle tickets.
Mm-hmm. What I'm getting at is it's not a subcommittee event.
Oh, okay.
The subcommittee has no voice in that
Which
event.
is okay. And we were always told it was.
Yeah.
When, you know, when Thor was in charge and then somebody else, it was like, oh no, if you know there's more than 2 flies on a turd, well, it's a subcommittee event.
Well, if the president of the subcommittee says it's not, then I assume it's not.
It just this is not a political. I think it just evolved that way over the course of like years and years and years, and they just kind of, now it's their thing. They've done it for so long that we've had these discussions before. We're crawl, walk, and then run. So right now we're crawling, trying to get our shit together, just getting our website functional and finding out how many members we have. But the overarching idea was if it's going to be a subcommittee event, then the subcommittee should have some benefit out of it. And right now there's no subcommittee marketing, there's no subcommittee input, there's no subcommittee oversight, there's none of that going on. So if that makes you feel any better about attending, you can certainly feel free to do so at any time, because it's really not a subcommittee event.
So who's in charge? The admirals?
Yep.
Yeah,
That is the sanctioning authority.
Yep.
yep. We
Well, I
approached
thought
them. What
with
Bob said
Rochester-
is true.
With Rochester as well, in conjunction with Rochester, a few of us Canadians and the admirals. And, because they have the feet on the ground there, but we all contributed to making this happen.
Mhm.
Don and Pat, with the raffle tickets and the registration table and all this, which still has to go on with any event. And they organized all the plaques and stuff, but both of you guys have been at the Carmel. It's a beautiful place to run.
Yep.
You can't get any nicer except for, like say Georgia, and a basket of peaches, but it's a nice bottom. It's fun. It's central. It's also at a time where it's not September. People are looking for something to do in August, the end of July. There's breaking up a distance.
Yep. That's totally valid.
But then again, if the border doesn't open, we're not coming anyway.
Yeah.
I
God,
would
yeah,
like
I'm
to
so
think
sorry
that
about that.
that's a temporary situation. If we're thinking 5 or 10 years in the future, then we got to plan for that.
Bob, on a rather selfish point, have you done any research into running here in the second largest state in the union?
There's Lake Woodland right here.
Have you ran yet?
Dude, I barely unpacked my house.
I hear you. I mean, I have lakes all over here, but I don't know what's what yet. I haven't gotten a lay of the land, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they do loading on this lake all the time. So I have to think that the venue is going to be, there's a boardwalk that goes through there, but I'll make it a point, and my wife would love to do this. We'll walk the perimeter and we'll just see if there's anything, decent.
Like I said, you're far enough, your distance is no great feat for me every other month to come down and run there. And we'll find something between. It's going to take time to find a venue, I think. Because I don't want to walk onto somebody's property and have a Benelli or some other an AR-15 stuck in my face, because that's what they're like around here. You just don't walk onto properties. You got to ask permission first.
Yep.
Plenty. Get off my lawn.
Yeah, Bob, I just, as another person who just moved from Seattle to Texas, I'm in Aubrey, just a little ways north of Dallas, and I know Ed's just a little ways south of Dallas.
Yeah. Yay! Somebody's here.
And there's, I'm getting connected up with the North Texas Model Shipwrights, I think is the group. And there's probably a dozen of them, and there's a couple of closet submariners in there that are starting to talk to me some more. So I know Houston has a pretty active, that's the only active group I could find on any of the forums was Houston. So I think, something in Texas, if you can find something that's not snake infested, might be a pretty good draw. And in Texas, you can do it in the springtime.
Yeah. Let's get together and I want to meet up with you and start talking with that group you mentioned. What are they called again?
I think it's the North Texas Model Shipwrights. I missed a run this last Sunday. It's literally our first Sunday in town after we moved. And they're going to run again in about 2 weeks in McKinney, Texas, which is up north of Dallas. It's fairly close to me.
Okay, I'm writing it down.
I'm in Aubrey. I forget which town you moved to, Ed.
I'm in Midlothian.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So you're about as far south of Dallas as I am north of Dallas. And
Okay.
Midlothian, where they filmed Lord of the Rings.
Yes. I just found out there's a replication of the Munsters mansion in the next town over. I gotta go see, with Halloween being here. So it's a lot to do here. That's excellent. By the
I'd
way,
love to get together and yeah, if it worked out to make a run down to Houston and run with the group down there, I'd do that heartbeat.
Yeah, if you can connect with that group and if you can CC me into that communication stream, I would love to
yeah, they're pretty unsophisticated. I mean, I came from a club in Seattle that had 70 or 80 members and a website, newsletter, been around for a long, long time. I mean, literally decades. And these guys have a text string going. That's it. So, but they're real good hearted and they've been tracking me for 3 or 4 months since I told them I was moving down there. And they seem like a great bunch of guys. And one of them's got a couple of pretty nice looking submarines. He's getting ready to get wet. So they're
excellent.
out there.
Solves that question. I'm like I said, I'm willing to travel anywhere. I think Groton will be every other year, but I just bought an Airstream trailer yesterday to do exactly this,
Well, bear in mind, Ed, too, the other thing, and maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth at this point, but if there ever comes a point where you can get a more like reasonably sized submarine, if there are long range sub runs out there, like my goal is to go to them and for me to circle up, pick you up, and then shoot out over there. We'll make that happen. That's not a problem.
Remember, I got like 4 196 scale boats, and I got that little beluga too. So
there you go.
I'm hoping exactly for that. Come to the airport here, I'll get dropped off, we go.
Yep. I'm trying to find a good pair of Longhorns to mount on the front of my airplane.
They call them canards.
Yeah,
canards.
Yep. Yep. Actually, what I want to do is build, like, maybe just lay up the front of one of my big submarines and have it coming out of my wall, and then put some Longhorns on the front of it.
Blasphemy.
That's funny.
And Tom, I'm meeting with Tom Shalfin right after this. We're going to try and get some finance stuff figured out. But we were thinking about having a get together here at my place, and this is open, and we're going to crack open a bottle of TX whiskey and think very like philosophical thoughts about the hobby, growing the hobby, building the hobby. So anybody is going to be welcome to that. I don't know when it's going to be, but we got like 5 bedrooms here, so we can probably put everyone up here at the house, and we're gonna chill out for like a week. We can bring boats and we can run both in the pool and at the local lake, so bear that in mind. All right, we got 20 minutes left. Surely people other than Frank have been working on boats.
Show and tell?
What's that?
You got show and tell time?
Show and tell time for anybody that has one sitting next to the camera.
Well, I got something.
Oh.
Anybody been following that Hunley thing I've been working on?
Yes.
Nah.
Well, screw you then. Next.
Go ahead.
If I can get this thing in frame. This is the WTC. I relinquished the title subdriver. Anyway, I made this thing for that specific model. And since it doesn't have stern planes, in lieu of that, the control that would operate stern planes is operating a propeller pitching mechanism. Bob can tell you all about that and the utility of that in lieu of stern planes. But this is the entire package. And I've already put it together, already done the testing and everything. It works fine. And I'm working on the linkages now for the Hunley. So hopefully I'll have everything integrated by the end of next week. Nice. I get this thing off to the guy it belongs to.
Yeah. that Hunley is a cool looking boat. Like I said, it looks good on, you know, and out of the water. And I'm still very taken with your rudder assembly. If I ever do another Hunley build, I'm gonna have to dig up all those pictures out of your thread and get that all engineered in there, because I cheated and I did a conventional linkage on my last one.
Well, it's challenging, and it's certainly a scale, which is what blows up my balloon. And as I alluded to in the last meeting, that linkage is faithful to the prototype, and it's the same type WRC airplane guys back in the day, when most of us were only operating rudder only. That was the linkage we used to slap that rudder around.
Yep.
Got a question.
Yeah.
Anybody ever attempted to build a working Periscope streaming video?
To stream like video from an actual like video camera mounted in a Periscope?
It was done in the 90s. I seen it operating at Johnson. Remember he had that 900 megahertz system? That one guy from California, weren't they going to sell that? It was the fiber optic.
Is
Down
that
on board.
Gillickson?
The guy with the invisible sub.
Rick Gillickson. He's an effects artist.
Yes. His video on it, 2003, 2004.
Oh, that was remarkable.
Yeah, he had the invisible sub. You could see it, and he had a transmitter with a display on it, and it had the whole Periscope view, everything. Yeah, but you know, it's kind of, you got to realize the scale of this thing bobbing through the water, so it kind of moves around a lot. It's not as steady, but it worked.
It
It
worked.
worked.
So
The guy's a genius.
And the new, you know, the new technology out there, you know, with borescopes and that kind of thing, you know, they are so compact right now. You could probably embed one of those vertically in a Periscope and just put a mirror, you know, at 45 degrees. So you could, I think in theory, make that work. It would have to be a bigger scale boat, but
No, it's already commercially available. It's that thing that a doctor sticks up your butt to look at your bowels.
yeah.
It's commercially available.
And they're not
Dave?
expensive. They're not
Right here.
expensive.
Hardly feel them these days.
Right here.
Dave, you wrote an article about something similar, using mirrors, and in fact, using a spherical, I remember you wanted to split the view with a spherical compass, so you can actually see the boats. You remember that article you wrote?
I didn't author that, but I do remember something like that. I think it was that Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I pay attention.
Oh, here we go. Kimball.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with a drone aircraft, and I'm putting video on it, and it just occurred to me that they've got this stuff that would make this pretty easy to put it inside of a Periscope. This little baby right here is a 1.2 watt video transmitter, 5.8 gigahertz, and it is received with on-screen display crosshairs, GPS coordinates inside these FPV goggles. And this would work on a sub. This is kind of exciting, actually. I'm thinking
until the antenna goes under the water. Yep.
I was about to say, if it's 5G, it won't work underwater.
Well, sure, it would kill it in a heartbeat, but you can make the whole thing waterproof, and you can come back up again, and there you go, your Periscope video.
Store it to an SD card.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact,
for a week.
got an SD card port on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that is awesome. It you know,
You stream, you would.
in practical application, I am still not sold on the value of real-time video. Because the only time you're going to receive it is when the subsurface is the subsurface, you can see it, so who cares anyway. In my mind, the more valuable video footage would come from something mounted, say, like in the sail or on the deck, you know, and you're catching full HD video with no static or interruptions. And you can see when the boat, you know, submerges and everything under the water. You download it when it comes back and edit it and have all the, you know, really cool footage. That having been said, I am 100% behind the whole idea of doing it because you think it would be cool and doing it because you can. So I would love to be proven wrong about the value of real-time video for an RC submarine. But I mean, obviously submerged is completely different if we could get video while submerged, but we have to invent new technology for that.
Put the antenna, which is about that long, right on top of the periscope. And when your periscope breaks water, you've got basically a hunt reticle from your periscope. Be great for firing torpedoes.
It is 100%. In practical application, though, the only time you're going to have any reasonable clarity, you know, of water is in a swimming pool. Even water that looks clear, and Kahutta is an exception. Obviously, it's like a spring-fed pool with like 40-foot visibility. But you know, even in water that's like quote unquote clear, all you're going to see is just murk, gray. You know.
If I can offer a couple of observations as an active driver of video submarines. Bob's points about the utility of real-time video is well taken, because you got your hands full just driving that submarine in a typical manner. That is, your eyes to that submarine you can see in the water, not plastered on some virtual goggles, which are highly distracting and limits your situational awareness to the point of inviting collisions. Now, we got some real good footage this year, only because I was watching the submarine, not goggles. And I think it'll, making my point, that that's the way to drive these things. We'll come out later when Bob edits and presents that video. We got some great stuff, but only because I had situational awareness. I could see the other guys, and I could get in their face or get out of their face that way. If I had goggles on, no, we would have nothing but collisions and chaos.
You've got video on your sub now?
Now, I've been doing it a long time.
Where is it an externally mounted camera, or is it integral to the sub?
No, it's external. It's mounted in a little watertight case. The camera itself is those old 808 cameras that have in the last decade gone HD. And it's either towed or it's affixed to the deck of the submarine.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I really, really don't want to take any wind out of your sails, because I would love to see somebody do it, and it's quite possible that it would enable a new methodology of operating the boat. So I don't want to take anything away, and if there's anything I can do to help support that, I'm 100% behind it. But I'm just saying, from my experience with video, there are very few venues that you're going to operate your RC submarine in that are going to make it worthwhile the time, money, and effort to integrate real-time video into your boat. So prove me wrong. I would love to see it, but that's just kind of my experience thus far.
Bob, I've got time, money, and effort, so I'll bring one to Subfest next year.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. And that would be the venue to do it in, because that water clarity was like 40 or 50 feet. It was epic. Yep, absolutely.
It'll be fun. We'll make it happen. If I get it done sooner, I'll bring it down and see you.
Yep. And there's been a ton of talk with people saying, oh, you know, we'll do a towed buoy so that you can broadcast at depth, you know, and receive video at depth. But I personally have never seen anybody do it successfully. And it makes me a little bit sick to my stomach to think about this, like, coaxial cable trailing behind the boat and getting wrapped around a 2 or 3 inch diameter propeller.
Heather, not cool.
Yeah,
Not cool at all.
there would be harsh words for the poor, other sub driver that inadvertently zipped past and wrapped his prop around your.
And depending where you run, there's so much garbage that can be, I've run into upended shopping carts. You get caught on something, you lose a boat, and without a swim at least.
Yeah.
I got a question, Bob. I'm looking currently at the Nautilus Drydocks sub skipper networking page.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I update my address?
Probably the easy. I think honestly the easiest thing, just send me an email and I'll go in and manually update it. Yeah, once you it's a form, right? So you submit the form, it auto populates, and then it would go in. You could just resubmit it, I think, and then I would just delete your old one.
Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, so for all of you who are not familiar with it, I've got this live for a while and I haven't updated it for a little while. Obviously, I've been a little busy, but if you are interested in reaching out to or being reached out to other sub skippers, I have a page where you can register your information. Now, just bear in mind that this will be visible to some individuals, so you're giving up some degree of privacy. But if there's anybody in your area, they could potentially reach out and say, hey, 2 hours away from you, let's hook up and talk submarines or go run at the local lake or, whatever. So it's sub skipper registration. I think it's under, I don't even remember where I put it, under the resources section, maybe.
Yes. Resources. I'm looking at it right now.
There you go. So Steve, have you got Thresher done yet?
Hang on.
That looks like a Thresher.
Give me a second. So I put some paint on it. It's got some color. I've got to do more. I've got to put the, I'm going to go with a very dark gray stripe across the top of it.
Rotate.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
there we go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie, it was quite funny watching everybody's heads sort of all tilt to one side.
All of us, everybody was looking like this.
That is beautiful.
Is that right? Is that right?
Oh. Zoom in on that bow detail. That is beautiful.
That's all 3D printed, Ed.
That was all in the print. I mean, that I did kind of tone down the edge around this hatch. But it came out really good as far as the detail is concerned.
Damn.
It's a pretty boat.
And,
So-
and I was talking about this at Subfest because he had it in primer there. That boat, when you look at it, it looks big. It looks like it's got presence even just sitting there because it's got such girth to it.
Yeah.
Like in LA, it looks like a pencil, going through the water. This looks like it's like moving ocean, right? When it goes through the water.
It's got a shorter length to width ratio.
Yeah.
Pressure compared to,
Yep.
She has presence. You could see that. Oh boy, there's nothing like a 1970s era boat.
So is that
Personally.
Is that 144 scale or 148 scale?
This is 148th, yes.
Oh man,
Nice.
Eddie like a lot. That is pretty.
So it's 60 some inches long and it's big around, but anyway, I got more painting to do. I've got to finish out the inside, but I've got most of the guts made, all the plates and stuff to secure all the interior. So it wouldn't be long and this boat would be ready to get wet.
What's
Well-
it printed with again? Is it the,
This is printed with ABS Plus.
it is the AB. Oh, man.
Where'd you get the file?
It's Bob's file,
Okay.
the permit file that he has. So
Damn.
It's what I love, and I hate to beat on this in Dave's presence, but it's what I love about the 3D files. You know, if you want it smaller, you print it smaller. If you want it bigger, you print it bigger. It's just, it's whatever turns your crank. And Steve's one of those guys. Like, we had that little Seehund, file, and he printed it out, and it was like whatever that hell that worked out to, 6 foot long German Seehund boat. It was huge. What was it? 1/6 scale or something?
1/6, yes.
Huge.
So
I just assembled my Snapmaker 2.0 A350, and I got a 12 by 12 by 13 inch build volume now. And boy, you got me stinking thinking. That was the, let's see, that's the laser cut I just did on it this week.
Nice.
The diameter of that boat, the way you have it printed?
let me check real quick.
Look at that.
It's 8 inches across.
Yeah, that's close to that. That's a little larger, I think, than a DeBoer skipjack, right? Because the skipjacks were a little shorter than the.
Yeah, this is, I think it's a little longer than the skipjack
Yeah, I think it's 62
at
or
148.
63 inches. But
Yeah.
they would so complement each other sitting side by side at Cahuta.
Oh yeah.
I tell you that whole height of the Cold War definitely be presented there.
Oh my God. Yeah. Again, like I said, all these cool boats that were coming out of the Soviet Union, the Alphas and the Akulas and it's still my favorite boat in the whole universe, the Typhoon. Like,
Yeah, maybe we need a sturgeon.
hey, I've got a meeting in 2 minutes, but I think this meeting can still go on. I'm gonna shoot out because I got more business to do with Tom. But I'll leave this. Dave, are you hanging around for a little while until everybody gets tired of talking?
Sure.
Okay, I'm gonna leave. And the recording, by the way, will end at this point because I'm recording it locally, but you guys can obviously still continue talking, and anybody who wasn't able to attend should just make the appropriate plans next time to be able to do it live. But yeah, check the events page of my site for the next version. We're back to kind of normal life now, so it should be 2 weeks from now.
Hey, Bob,
Yep.
I would like to make a suggestion that maybe we should do a reservation of 10 minutes for shop tours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just as much fun of the hobby is like I can remember the one time I visited Dave's Cape.
Yep.
It was like a kid in a candy store, I'd like to see people's, because you get ideas from that and you can grow on it to work on your own shop to get it.
Kids candy store. I prefer the term Dante's Inferno.
I bet you would, Lucifer.
Hey, you don't want to see my workshop. It's a bomb site.
Well, we will do that. That's a great idea because it actually gives a ton of really great ideas for organization and testing and trimming and all of this other stuff that everybody's gone. Well, you know what we need to do, Steve? We need to get a tour of Daryl's workshop. No, he's gone.
Unfair. Then somebody ends up with a bunch of tool envy.
Yeah, that's right.
Tool envy is cool.
Ew.
All right, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys later.
Take care.
Thanks, Bob.
Sit down, Bob.
All right, the rest of you bums, who wants to do show and tell? Who's got